It's time to admit I owe Terence Bud Crawford an apology. You heard it. Boxingego owes Terence Crawford an apology. So let's talk about Jaron Boots Ennis defeats David Avanesyan, a.k.a. David Avocado. Want to give you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly of what I saw tonight. I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm going to keep it real. And I'm going to let you know what I seen. So, crowd, let's talk with the good. The good was Philly came out and it was like one of the biggest fights since, I don't know, Marvin Hagler or somebody fought in Philadelphia 45, 46 plus years ago. So that was good to see Philly, a fight town, get a good fight with the local hometown hero, somebody that everybody should be paying attention to, Jaron Boots Ennis. So that was the good. The other good is it's his first fight with Rematch Room, first fight with DAZN, Eddie Hearn. He was previously fighting on Showtime. Now, be clear, there's a lot of people who lie in this boxing game. He wasn't signed to Premier Boxing Champ. He wasn't a PBC fighter. So I just have to make that clear. There's a lot of people that think he was. He was in a partnership with Cameron Duncan, the late Cameron Duncan, and he was fighting on Showtime, which hosts PBC fights, and he was fighting on PBC cards. So it was good to see he got, back in the ring. His last fight was a minute ago on Showtime with Roman Villa. So he's been out the ring for a minute, dealing with some legal things after Cameron Duncan passed. There were some issues with his contract about not getting the appropriate amount of fights. Then he became a free agent, and then the rest is history. He signed with Eddie Hearn, yada, yada, yada. So that was good to see him back in the ring and to see that Philly came out to support him. Now, the bad. To me, the card wasn't really good. Really wasn't a great card. It was good to see the Philly people. Hopefully they had a good time. The Sky Nicholson fight was boring. The girl she fought, Vargas or whatever, was real crude and mad sloppy. So I didn't really enjoy the card. As far as Jalil Hackett, he did his thing, but he kind of tapered off and fizzled out versus Pistol Pete Dobson. I really thought he would probably get a stoppage, but it ended up going the full, 10 rounds or whatnot. And then we get to the main event. The main event, I don't know, it's kind of weird. And stay tuned to the end of the video. I will explain why I'm apologizing to Terence Bud Crawford, right? So round one, Boots came out very aggressive. Like before the fight even started, he was like bending down, crouched down, which I've seen him do in the past and things like that. He knew he had Philly on his back, and it might have been a culmination of a couple different things. And I'm not making excuses. I'm going to tell you exactly what I saw. But hometown hijinks. A lot of people think fighting at home is just to your benefit. Now, it can be, but it also can be a gift and a curse. What do I mean? So if you fight at home, especially if you train at home and have the fight at home, you got people bombarding you, asking you questions, trying to visit you in camp, asking for free tickets, all that type of nonsense. I know fighters personally. I know how the game goes, and people want to go where it's at. So Philly, they ain't really had no big fights, no big fight cards in a minute. Danny Garcia fought in Philly like one time. Most of the time he was fighting at the Barclays and stuff like that. So even Bernard Hopkins, he fought Kovalev in New Jersey. So close to Philly, but I'm talking about in actual Philly. So they brought this to the Wells Fargo Theater. So anyway, fighting at home, it could be a gift and a curse. Good for certain reasons, but also bad for other reasons. Some of the other reasons why it could be bad, you got people that you went to school with. You got people that are from your gym. You got people that you know from the block, from the neighborhood, and family members and cousins or whatever. So sometimes you get a little bit antsy trying to impress the hometown crowd. So I think that did come into play a bit because, again, Philly ain't had no big Philadelphian fighter fight in Philly in quite some time, right? So that's one thing. Two, you add and combine the fact that Jaron Ennis hasn't fought in over a year. Post-fight, Jaron Ennis even said he felt a bit rusty. He said the question was something to the effect of, "You didn't look all the way satisfied with your performance. You know, talk to me about that." And he was like, "Man, my timing was off. I just felt a little bit off with it." You know, Eddie Hearn tried to come in and clean it up and say something to the effect of, "If this is him ring rusty, then I fear for him if he's active." And as I get to the meat of the fight, the bad and the ugly, I do not care if you guys cry in the comments section, because when I say something good, you guys say, "Oh, you love this fighter. You're a D rider. You're glazing this fighter." If I say something bad or constructive, then you guys say, "Oh, you hate this fighter." I don't live off of hate versus love. I'm gonna tell you what I seen. This is my channel on YouTube. Take it or leave it. If you don't like it, get to stepping. So I don't want to hear a bunch of Boots man fans come in when I deliver this sermon and talking about, "Oh, you hate Boots." Check my track record. I've always showed Boots love on my channel. I've always told you to watch for him. I even liken him to Roy Jones Jr. However, more so than any fighter, I have integrity. I have a reputation and credibility in this game, and I care about my brand. I care about my surname. So it's never gonna get to the point where I can't keep it real with what I saw. So that's just a quick PSA. So for the bad, and I'll just probably combine, because I'm not trying to nitpick. So we'll just say the bad and the ugly, I'll kind of combine them. Nothing was grotesquely, like, Boots looked entertaining for sure. The fight had great action, and it was good because, I mean, just last week we had Shakur Stevenson, and many people didn't necessarily prefer how he went about. So it was a complete, if you didn't like the Shakur Stevenson Artem Haratunian fight, then the tempo of this fight was pretty much the complete opposite of that. Boots was lacing together some vicious combinations. Another good thing for Jaron is his body work was nasty, wicked body attack. I love that. And Boots has this real mean streak. But now we're getting back to the bad and the ugly, the gift and the curse. The problem with his mean streak is Boots is so young, and I don't want to say inexperienced, but maybe that's the best word for it. He's so novice, meaning he doesn't have a Canelo or Danny Garcia or Errol Spence type of resume. So with that being said, he's eager to prove. He's young. He hasn't had the defining fights that will make you into a quote unquote legend. He's an up and coming, hot fighter that people are checking for, with an amazing style to watch. That's very fun, very electrifying, etc. So with that mean streak and that youth and that eagerness, I think there's some flaws and mistakes that I keep seeing in this fight. Now, the difference is your level of competition that you're currently fighting have allowed for you to push the issue, make those mistakes, and get through it without too much consequence. But one thing I know about boxing, there's somebody out there that has your number. There's somebody out there in this world. If you thought you were born and nobody else can at least rival you and meet you in certain departments, you're crazy. You're not the only person. Like, if you're a power guy, you're not the only fighter with power. If you're a guy who has a lot of speed, you're not the only guy with a lot of speed. If you have athleticism, you're not the only athletic guy, and so on and so forth. So what I'm noticing from Boots, and I've always noticed this, but as we're maturing and he's in a new situation and a new deal, I'm still seeing it. Boots was getting touched. Touch, boom, 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 touch. Omarion, he was getting touched by David Avanesyan. Now we're getting into what I call Ego's apology to Terence Crawford. I owe that man Terence Crawford an apology. I've never doubted that Bud was a monster. I didn't think he would beat Errol Spence. He already proved me wrong there. He definitely beat Errol Spence. But when Bud was fighting David Avanesyan, you know, I was calling him David Avocado, and I've seen David Avanesyan live. I covered it years ago on the Broner card. Broner fought Granados, and Avanesyan, an earlier Avanesyan, was on that card, and he will end up fighting Lamont Peterson. So I've seen him live, and I've never just been super impressed with him. Plus, he got stopped by Mean Machine. Crawford knocked him out. So I must have slept on Avanesyan's grit. He was far more resilient and far more durable than I gave Crawford credit for. Like, when I'm looking at like this now in hindsight, seeing how Avanesyan conducted himself, he might not be top tier. He's not an A-level fighter, but he does have some things where he could give certain level, like Josh Kelly's and stuff, you know what I mean? He can give certain level dudes issue because he was touching Boots Ennis, right? So I think I slept on the durability and the overall resolve of David Avocado when he fought Boots, because I didn't really rate that victory. But now that I have something to compare it to recently, if I'm not mistaken, Avocado is either coming off of the loss to Terence Crawford, or he's probably had some tune-up style fights at best since the Crawford fight, right? So he had one fight that he won in 4 rounds against an 11 and 55 and 3 guy. So I don't really count that. That's basically Crawford cooked you and knocked you out in 6 rounds, and you came back and did a tune-up, which is, you know, it happens. You got knocked out brutally in the 6th round by Bud, so you came back to a tune-up. Then you fought Boots Ennis. Now the other thing is, this wasn't even David Avanesyan's go, meaning he was a ranked guy with the IBF, yes, but he didn't get a full training camp. Boots fought him and was getting touched, and he had 4 weeks to prepare for this fight. So I need you guys to notate that Boots had a full camp. Whether he hadn't fought in a year or not, he got hometown advantage. He got to fight in front of his people, his crowd, and he had a full camp because he was supposed to fight Cody Crowley. On the other hand, I gotta give credit where credit is due. David Avanesyan is just better than I gave him credit for. I was thinking he was like more of like an Avni Yildirim when Canelo tried to slip that in, but he not that bad because Boots was getting touched in that fight. Now, Boots was definitely the stronger person, and he was much bigger. When I looked at Boots, that if you look at my first tweet about the fight, that's probably the first thing that I said. I was like, Boots looks huge next to David Avocado. But I actually respect what David Avocado went. He was a 4-week camp. He went to enemy territory. He didn't get a full camp to train for Boots, and he's 1 fight removed from getting cooked by Terence Crawford, and he went in there in Boots' backyard and gave it a go. Fair play to David Avanesyan. And that's the bad and the ugly. Boots was getting hit a bit too much for my liking. Now, you could believe me, the person who, I'm my own boss. I don't work for nobody. I don't work for DAZN. So DAZN commentaries, they were trying to cop please, and they was talking about, oh, it's because he's been out the ring, and oh, because Boots was trying to impress the crowd, he's willing to take one to get. Bro, he got hit, for my taste, he got more hit than I expected him to get hit by a guy like David Avanesyan. And I've seen this in multiple fights, but Boots has an amazing style to watch. But again, how much of that is because of you're able to get away with doing that to certain levels of competition? When you step up in competition, that's not that overzealous, I'm just gonna pile drive you and let off all my combinations. Not everybody's gonna be there for that. So when we're talking about a fight that I've always wanted to see, and I still want to see it, Boots versus Terence Crawford, I owe that man Crawford an apology, because you're only as good as your last fight. And what have you done for me lately? From that showing, Boots could possibly beat Terence Crawford, but it might not be the fight that some people are thinking it is, because if Avanesyan can hit you that routinely, Terence Crawford for sure can hit you, because he's a switch hitter, and Terence is just agile, cat-like, reflexes, and he has a gang of experience. So if I have to go off recent performances, I gotta favor Bud. I gotta favor Bud Crawford. Whereas before, Boots, like if it was like Boots off of Villa, and because he just looked spicy all the way through that, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, but like I said, it's still a great fight. It's a fight I still want to see. It's 50-50, but I might have looked at this, and like I said, you can only judge based on the progression of a fighter at the given time. But at this given time, because look at it, if Crawford moves up to 54, if he beats Israel Madrimov, and I'm not saying that's an easy fight, then he'll already have the advantage, because he'll have one fight in at 154. Crawford is not going to come back down. If he does even fight Boots, if he don't get like a Canelo, he ain't coming back down for Boots Ennis. So likely Boots would have to move up to 54, and Crawford by that time will at least have one fight in the can. And again, you do not want to get hit with silly shots from Terence Crawford. And Terence Crawford is kind of a magician, where he just has a jab and he'll lace you with some stuff. It's like, chill out, Smokey. It's angel dust. You will get laced by Bud Crawford. So I don't know. I'm really, based on this performance, I know Eddie Hearn and DAZN, they trying to talk it up. It's not that it was a boring fight, but I'm telling you guys, from my heart, I don't know if Boots can beat Terence Crawford based on that performance. And he's talking about ring rust and I fell off. Guess what? You got to shine under the bright lights. Terence Crawford don't care if you're ring rusty. He's consistent. He's going to perform. So you can't have no excuses. And I really thought David Avocado was landing too frequently on Boots, but then also he was like, if he had a little bit more snap, it could have been real interesting. But Boots just happens to be really big, really athletic, and he has a vicious style offensively. But I'm not really, I can't go all in on guys who have a bully offense unless they fight someone else that got the power to bully you back. Like, for example, like David Benavidez at 175, he didn't stop Vodstick. So a fight that would be super dangerous is versus Beterbiev, because you have no choice but to respect Beterbiev's power. Some guys are like that. Crawford is, I don't think he's as powerful per capita as Beterbiev, but you definitely gotta respect his power, because it comes with speed and timing and stuff like that, and the accuracy behind it plus the power makes it deadly. So Boots, at best, it's a bad habit. Some people are saying, like in comment sections, they're like, oh, but Boots, if Boots fights against Terence Crawford, he'll be on his P's and Q's and he won't get hit with that. But I feel like those are cop-outs in the sport of boxing, because who are we to say in a fictitious fantasy hypothetical fight that you're going to clean up your work versus someone as elite and as known as Terence Crawford, but then you're fighting Crawford's leftovers and you're not cleaning up your work and looking flawless? Because let's be real and be clear when I say this. If we're judging David Avocado versus Crawford and David Avocado versus Boots Ennis, Terence did better, because he made it look effortless, and Terence Crawford fought the version, so he was fighting a win streak version of David Avocado. Boots is fighting a version that got crushed by Crawford and was one fight removed from that. So Crawford had the better version. Avanesyan had a full camp because it wasn't like a late sub. and they fought in December in Omaha. So that's a wash. Avanesyan's a road warrior. He fought Crawford in his backyard, fought Boots in his backyard, but he had a full camp for Crawford, and he wasn't getting off on Crawford like that. Straight up, straight like that. So I can't say that. I can't say that a person, oh, I'm just going to step it up. You got to be able to step it up right now, like, and get the person out the way. Put it this way. Terence Crawford's beatdown of David Avanesyan, first of all, it didn't get stopped in the corner. As soon as his gloves blew up, Terence Crawford got busy, had a sense of urgency because his gloves was like messed up or whatever happened to his glove. And he just started putting his punches together and getting more aggressive. And then he destroyed. And then I'm talking about Avanesyan head is bouncing off the canvas. He dribbled his head off the canvas. Boots had a corner stoppage. And I'm not mad at the stoppage. I still think Boots looked good. It was fun to watch. But this ain't about fun. This is about the competition. And now the fight everybody's been wanting to see is Boots versus Crawford. And I'm just saying, with that effort, you're not going to beat Terence Crawford, in my honest, humble opinion. So I would say this, still a great fight, 50-50, 60-40. A lot of people will have it, but boxing is what have you done for me lately? And what I seen tonight, you just can't be in there with someone that's superior. And another reason I got to say this is because Eddie Hearn said that Boots will beat everybody, including Crawford. But he's the promoter of Boots and not the promoter of Crawford. So you would expect the promoter to hype up their person. Me, I don't have a horse in the race. I've been a fan of Crawford and I've been a fan of Boots Ennis. I'm going off of what I seen tonight, and that's the bad and the ugly. And you could say ring rust and he was hyped because it was his hometown fight and new deal with Eddie Hearn. I don't care. I'm going off of what I seen. And what I seen was good, but again, when we look at the same opponent, Crawford had the better version of David Avanesyan, and he made it look more effortless. He had more finesse when it came to how he dismantled, and even the outcome was more of a crescendo. Crawford just ended it in the ring. And I'm not saying that Avanesyan would have not got stopped in that similar way, but we can only go off how it actually ended. I don't do all the hypotheticals. So for that reason, your boy Ego owes Terence Crawford an apology, because the way he handled Avocado, again, there was just a lot more finesse, and it didn't look like, when Crawford fights, it doesn't look like he's trying. And this is going to be, some people might not even feel this point, but I'm going to try to drive it home. When Crawford was fighting Avocado, it looked effortless, like he didn't even have to try. When Boots was fighting the same opponent, Avocado, right? It looked like Boots was like, like trying to make a statement, and like trying to like really chop him down, and and that could be an experience thing. So still a great fight. Boots, congratulations on the victory, but let me know in the comment section what you feel Boots versus Bud Crawford after what you just seen. But I think it's safe to say that at the end of the day, Boots, he got to fight an elevated level of competition. He could beat this level of guy all the time. Like, to me, before this fight even happened, when they were trying to find a replacement for Cody Crowley, I said Mean Machine would have been a great late sub. I don't care about rankings. The guy he was supposed to fight was Cody Crowley. He was ranked, and then they had the venue booked and he couldn't fight. So you could probably get an exception through the IBF to get a substitute in there. So I would have preferred a fighter like Mean Machine. And Mean Machine dropped Bud and hurt him, hurt Virgil Ortiz, despite both guys stopping Mean Machine. So the shots that Boots was getting hit with today, if a guy has some power, like Mean Machine type of power or higher, it would be real interesting, bro. That's all I'm gonna say. So it's not about doubting Boots. Just depends on the matchup, depends on who I'll pick, like whoever he fights or whatever. But Boots is definitely not the finished article, and it made me reconsider Boots versus Bud. And boxing does that. Sometimes you have a certain notion in your head about how things will play out, because people did that with Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Before his last two performances with Edwin De Los Santos and Artem Harutyunyan, people were like, oh, Shakur can beat Tank. I seen it. Boxing, what have you done for me lately? Now, all of a sudden, I don't see that many people saying Shakur can beat Tank. And that's how boxing works. You gotta shine. You gotta keep looking good. And it's not that Boots didn't look good tonight, but I did see some fluke and some flaw and some, I mean, anytime you have to say I was ring rusty and my timing was off and stuff, then I know I can't be way off the mark. Because why? If you had a flawless performance and what I'm saying is cap, then why would you say that for your own post-fight interview? So I know I'm the best in the business, and it's not even close.